In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Absolve me, my fathers. As the journey continues of seeking to live a life of beauty and order, and I pray that we can all leave with this renewed desire of putting our house in order, seeking to live a life of purpose and fulfillment. I was just thinking this morning, when we see a family and we compliment them and say, "Oh, what a beautiful family," what do we mean by that? You know, we're probably not complimenting their appearance. We're not complimenting their possessions or anything. There is an image. There is an icon, right? The word image in Genesis is ikon, which is icon, that we're admiring. We're admiring the design of God's plan for marriage in that specific family, in that specific instance. And this is what I hope I personally walk away with, to look at my failings, look at my shortcomings, and leave here with a renewed desire and an equipping of how to go back to my family and be the best father and husband that I can be. So we saw how we acquire or we start putting our house in order by acquiring wisdom, being faithful, knowing how to communicate and resolve conflicts. And now we're going to speak about an important topic, which is the role of man as providers for their families. When you think about it, nearly every culture and every religion will agree on this role, right? With the exception of maybe some extreme views. But wherever you go in the world, you'll see that there is a consensus, there's a global understanding that the man is the provider. Some call it the breadwinner. But with God's grace, we're going to understand this a little bit deeper. As men, what are we called? What's our calling? Are we simply called to be ATM machines? It's available to our homes. Are we there just to have a transactional relationship with our kids? If you do this, I'll give you that. So with God's grace, this is going to be our topic for this morning. We're going to start by understanding this role and how the church appoints us as providers. In the matrimony prayers, as I said in an earlier topic, we said the idea of the matrimony prayers is that the church establishes a kingdom, right? And appoints them and puts the betrothed couple in the front of the church in a way that almost faces the people, because we're declaring them to be a miniature kingdom, a microcosm of the kingdom of heaven. And God, in His love for humanity, He wanted, since it says in the book of Ecclesiastes that the kingdom of heaven is within you, right? And the idea of making this unit of marriage, or the family, as a miniature kingdom, is in which the man is the king and the woman is the queen. This establishment of a kingdom is very important for us to understand. So this establishment of this kingdom, this union that is everlasting, right? It's for the rest of their lives. And this union only makes sense within the union of the man or the soul with its creator. That's why in the early church rites of the matrimony, it was held after matins, right? Why? Because this union can never make sense outside our union with Christ. It's a subset of this union with our Creator. When I am united with my Creator in the Eucharist, in the deepest sense of this communion, right, in which I take my Creator inside of me, now I can be united with my spouse. Now I can be in understanding, in appreciation of this union, and in honor of this union that only, again, makes sense within the context of the Eucharist. So the men are clothed with, there are prayers. The men actually get clothed with vestments, it is the same vestment, the burnos, right, as priests. They're appointed as priests. As we said in the beginning, it's an extension of the priesthood, the extension of the church in every individual home. Leaders and kings of their kingdoms. And then the church, in the book of Ephesians, says, may men love your husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, right? This very lofty expectation, right? It's a perfect love, right? A lot of times when couples come to me complaining about the difficulty of the commandments, I say, which one is more difficult? Love your spouse as Christ loved the church, or submit and surrender and respect him and obey him, right? In my opinion, what we're called to do as men is far more difficult to mimic and imitate this perfect love that we all fall short. Every time I get angry, every time I get frustrated, every time I respond in pride, as Abuna Matthias was saying yesterday, the moment we respond in pride, the moment we lose, the moment we've lost the vision of what we're trying to do. And the church also, in the prayers, continues and says, as Christ gave himself up for the church. So this continual dying for my spouse, for the ones that I love, this continual dying of, it's not about me, it's about them. It's about what they need. It's not about convenience. They're not there to make me happy, right? Again, when we think about a kingdom, we say everybody in this kingdom is serving the king. But far be it from us. Christ, as he says, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And he gave us this icon, this image of serving as washing of the feet. I know a beautiful couple that actually the man has this on their anniversary, he washes her feet as part of, renewing their idea of what are we doing in this marriage, right? Every year he washes her feet, and it's beautiful. So this continual dying for the ones we love. And Christ is our ultimate provider, right? And in the Gregorian liturgy, we say, for you are the provider and giver of all goodness. You are the provider and giver of all goodness. So the man needs to be the provider of my family. So for the rest of the topic, I'd love for us to just reflect internally, what am I providing? Maybe I'm providing contention. Maybe I'm providing a stressful environment. Maybe I'm providing just orders and commands and criticism, as Abuna was saying yesterday. How do we communicate? So let's think about what are we providing, the environment that we're establishing in our kingdoms, in our homes. Then the church continues in the crowning ceremony and says, today, addressing the groom, today you are responsible for her instead of her parents. Excel in doing all that is good for her. Excel means be quick. Look for opportunities. Be proactive. Not when she asks you for, can you be nice? Can you be affectionate? Say, okay, I guess. Right? No, that's not what the church is saying. The church is saying, excel. Be quick in finding opportunities. Be on the lookout for, what can I do? How can I help? Right? Our wives a lot of times are going to be overwhelmed and they're not going to verbalize what they want. Right? Unfortunately, I wish they can always talk to us and tell us very plainly what they want. Get up and do this, or can you do that? But a lot of times they're going to want to be reassured that we understand them, that we see, and that we can read between the lines of their needs. And then the church confirms that same thought to the wife and says, he is responsible for you instead of your parents. In a way that's saying, he is going to be the one that you need to depend on, right? Don't think about your parents. Forget your father's house, your people in your father's house. He is the one who's going to be your all in all. He's the one who's going to provide for your needs, as we're going to see later on in different ways. So embrace your role as a provider, because to be a provider is to be godlike. To embrace your role as an extension of God's providence to those whom I'm entrusted with. In our liturgical prayers, we often mention this word beneficent. This comes from the Latin bene, which is good, and fecare, which means to make or do goods, right? The one who does good. And guess what? We're all called to be beneficent in our homes. We're all called to be ones that do good or make good to those around us. So in what areas are we asked to provide for our homes? The first one is simple. It's the one that I would love to spend the least time on. The financial aspect. Of course, it's understandable that we need to provide finances or financial stability and security for those whom we love. We need to provide opportunities for their growth. We need to explore their potential. And how do we do this? By providing financially for them to actually explore, right? Enroll your kids in activities. Enroll them in different ways that they can see, maybe I like that. Maybe I can grow in this gift or this sport or whatever it is. It's not merely to provide for them gifts and electronics and toys and iPads. No, think about it. I'm providing for them to reach the maximum potential of their growth. That's how I see it. That's how I see. For the longest time, I have two of my sons. One is very athletic. He excels in every single sport that he enters, and coaches want him on the competitive teams. The other one, not so much. And for the longest time, I felt bad because I want him to find himself in something. I want him to be able to say, yeah, I'm good at that, right? And since my boys are very close in age, there is that competitiveness. They're 14 months apart. So there is that competitiveness between them. I'm good at that. So I had to proactively look for ways for him to find his strength, whether it's going to be in music, whether it's going to be in band or martial arts or anything. So it was a journey. So this is part of the financial provisions. This is the way we, as parents, give opportunities for our kids to grow. The only point that I would mention here is it's not only about spending. And what do I mean by that? When we provide financially for our families, we can also provide to them financially by saving, not necessarily by spending, right? Because maybe this is something that you can actually provide to them at a later point. This is something that you can actually give to them and say, this is a gift for you that I saved for this year's to help you at that point in your life, whether it's college or whether at some point or later on in their lives when they're making big commitments, you can say, baby, I saved. This is something that I actually financially provided for you. Maybe it wasn't instantaneous. Maybe it wasn't when you wanted it the most, when you asked for this toy or you asked for this device. But this is, again, an idea of being shrewd and wise in our financial dealings. So providing for my family by saving is a way, and also providing for their futures. I need to also provide for them financial responsibility. Teach them at a young age to save. Teach them at a young age to understand the value of money. We started giving them piggy banks and then for them to save and so on and so forth. At an early age, I think 4 or 5 or 5 and 6, I can't remember. And very soon we started seeing that their view of money skewed. They would see something in the store and I would say, no, we don't need this. I don't think this is a good toy. I'm going to get it with my money. So you know what? You just showed me that maybe you're not ready for this idea of money. Maybe it's a little bit later, right? This idea of, okay, if you're going to tell me no and I have money in my piggy bank, I'm going to go get it. So this was an indicator for me that, okay, they're not ready. And they developed, and we went back to it, and at some point, they can start understanding they're still not perfect, they're still not making the right thing. Maybe their idea of money is a little bit skewed, but it's going to come. It's going to come with time, but we have to show them that as a family, we're financially responsible. We're making decisions. We're making projects around the home. Dad speaks to mom about financial commitments. There is a budget. There is an idea of, yeah, no, this is out of reach. This is too expensive. We can't undertake this project. It's okay for them to understand that this concept of not everything is within our limits or not everything is within our reach, that is healthy for them, right? Actually, my son at some point, when he asked for something, he says, Daddy, he started understanding that this is okay, Daddy, that's not too expensive. This is way too expensive, right? But it's good. Not that he's growing to become, feeling suppressed or poor. No, he's having this idea of what is worth it to spend time on and money on, and what is not something that is beneficial for me to spend time on, to spend money on. So the next thing is to provide time and being present. I think I touched on that yesterday. But again, this idea of we're not just ATM machines. The dad is not just the breadwinner and he's the one who actually gives the money to the mom and the mom goes and buys things for the kids. The next thing we need to provide for is time. And love is time. And love means time, spending time. When I say to somebody, I love you, but I'm hardly there for you, what does that say about my love to them? We provide for the necessity of all of our families as responsible parents, but a lot of times we lack in the areas of, well, do I make time to go and watch their soccer games? Do I make time to go and attend their school performances and events? It's very important. This is actually, I remember my son had his presentation for Veterans Day. It was just, I think, this week. And as they're coming and taking the stage, every single kid, not just my son, every single kid scans through the audience, tries to find where their parents are, right? And my son took time, so couldn't. I was sitting down, so obviously I'm hard to miss. So I stood up and I started waving, and then he looks, and then I can see his face just quieted down. It was calmer. Why? Because he knows, okay, now I can perform. My parents are there in the audience. We need to do that. We need to find ways to support them with time. As they grow to become godly men and women in their lives, we need to be there. We need to acknowledge them. As Abuna says, encourage them. People, what a beautiful performance. Good job. You knew it by heart. Maybe he doesn't sound the best, but it's okay. It's amazing. Thank you for being there and supporting them. Whether they have an exam for a good period of time, I would tell them, pray for your exam in the morning before you leave the home. And my older son, grew in the habit of wanting to be anointed with oil. His daddy anointed me with oil. I would anoint him with oil. God be with you, Habibi, you have an exam. Whether it's the STAR test or any other test that he has. So this idea of also being there with them, knowing what they're going through, knowing that they have an exam or they have a presentation or they have something, and tell them, good luck. May God be with you. This shows compassion, and it shows that you understand what they're going through. You understand and you empathize with their challenges. Don't just quickly dismiss and say, oh, it's okay, Habibi, this is easy. You've got this math. Be compassionate. Maybe he's stressed. Maybe they are not feeling confident in whatever they're going to do, right? Just encourage them. Don't downplay it, and don't actually overcomplicate or overstress them about it. Just give them support in a balanced way. Be part of your kids' lives. I remember we had a family, and this was said to me by the son firsthand. The father was away for years and years and years, providing and working in the Middle East. And finally, after the son was in his senior year of high school, father finally came back, and the son got used to the father not being there. So the father comes back and he wants to ignite this father-son relationship. So he tells his son, Habibi, why don't we go for coffee? And he noticed that the son would quickly dismiss, no, Daddy, I got something. No, Daddy, I'm going with friends. No, Daddy, I don't like coffee. And he would make excuses. And so the son came to me in a sit-down of confession. He told me, after all these years, that's his exact words, after all these years, he just wants to have a relationship with me. That's like a dagger in the heart, right? It's tough. So be there, be present in their lives. Take them out. Like I look at my 2-year-old and jokingly, as I make my coffee in the morning, I tell her, can't wait for us to have coffee when you grow up, right? Go out together. She doesn't understand what I'm saying, but this is just verbalizes my desire for me to spend time with her. So time is so crucial. Time communicates love. Time communicates that I'm there, present, and not just present, actively present in all the details of their lives. Providing them, again, with presence. The next one is provide for their spiritual needs. And I think Abuna Matthias also touched about that. And I actually I felt great listening to the different points that Abuna is making. And I say, glory be to you, O Lord, because there's a lot of points that I think God wants to drill in our minds, and because they're important. So providing for the spiritual needs of my children. Can I say with Joshua, as for me and my household, we serve the Lord. Do they see this as the utmost priority? Do they see this as an uncompromisable part of our lives? The prayer, the church, the Eucharist, the confession, their own quiet time with their Bibles. It's so important. It's so important. And it's not just going to come with, Habibi, go pray. Go read the Bible. Or go to church. Or I'm going to drop you off and for hymns class or whatever it is. They need to see me living those values. They need to see me finding comfort in my prayer, finding comfort in my spiritual life. A lot of times we teach our kids system of rituals and not a living faith. And I always say that what they see you do at times of stress is what really communicates to them your values, your deepest understanding or sense of values. What do you run to when there is a financial issue, when there is a huge argument in the home, what do they see you do? Do they see you just go out and slam the door behind you and say, you'll see me when you see me? Or they see you maybe shut your door and take some time to calm down, maybe say an arrow prayer just to quiet your thoughts and regain your calmness. What do they see you do? Do they see you yell and maybe utter profanities? This is what communicates to them what this house is built on. There's a huge difference between the two ways of telling kids and communicating to them intellectually that they need to be close to God, and modeling to them that daddy goes to confession, mommy goes to confession. Mommy has a notebook in which she writes her quiet time, or daddy has his book right beside his bed that he reads, and he's going for these different means of learning and growing. As Abuna mentioned yesterday, continual growth, continual learning. And again, think about it that our faith is tested in tough times and stressful events. This is the essence of modeling my life with God. So we talked about God appointing the men as providers. We talked about providing for them financially. We talked about providing for them time and presence. We talked about providing for their spiritual needs. We also need to provide for their emotional stability. One time I was sitting with Dr. Nabil Ba'i, who's a pioneer in counseling in our church. And he was telling me, a lot of men get it wrong. They think that the wife, she's the one who sets the tone and the temperature in the home. He says, no. Men are the thermostat, and women are the thermometer. Women merely reflect the temperature that you set in the home. You set the temperature for an affectionate, caring, calm, quiet, peaceful home, the wife is going to reflect that. The man is aggravated, the man is stressed, the man is not there, the man is dismissive. Well, that's what the wife is going to reflect. So let's understand that the stability of the home is in our hands. The stability of the general atmosphere of the home is in our hands. Believe me, it's important for us to understand this because it puts the onus and the responsibility on our shoulders. We are the ones who govern and regulate the atmosphere in our homes. We need to provide a safe haven for our wives and children to bring emotional burdens without being judged or belittled. Being heard and understood. It's important. I loved Abuna's example yesterday about how was your day at school? Good. I'm like, Habib, you want to say something else? You want to tell me a little bit more? But as Abuna says, they're not ready. And every time I tell my wife, my son just, gives me this one word answer. She says, you have to catch him at a good time in which he opens up. And she says, by the time I go to his room ready to kiss him goodnight, he just tells me to sit down, and he tells her, you know what, this day, as Abuna was saying, this day happened and this kid said this and so on and so forth. So give them have those opportunities in which they can open up to you, in which they feel that they are safe to just open up with you. Try to understand the mode our wives are in. What do I mean by that? She comes after a long day of work and she's visibly distressed. So as a caring husband, you want to know what's going on, right? So she tells you, this colleague was mean to me, or I received this really frustrating email, and so on and so forth. She could be in two modes. The one, she wants to brainstorm with you for solutions, right? She's actively looking for just ideas on how to address the situation, or she just wants you to listen. And many times, 90% of the time, she just wants you to listen. So you come and say, you can reply and copy so-and-so and say this has not happened, and attach this email to prove your point. And she looks at you in disappointment and says, I wasn't looking for an answer. It's okay, I know that I'm going to do that. She just wants to communicate with you that she's distressed, that she's not happy, that she's burdened a little bit. So try to have this emotional and social intelligence to understand maybe not every time, as Abuna was saying, we're very logical, factual. Maybe not every time you need to respond in that way. Maybe not every time, that I'm sorry, that hurts. I'm sorry, this must have been difficult. This must have, took you off track for the rest of your day. And listen. Listen to them as they unload and share with you what's on their heart. So this is an example of providing emotional stability for the kids, for the wife and the kids. So be on the lookout. Be always ready to give empathy and attentiveness to your kids and your wives. If you're there, be there. If you're not in the home, then okay, maybe within limited means you can be there. You can answer the phone call or be as much as you can be there for them. I remember my wife called me when I was at a conference or at a coverage, and she says, I have this problem and the car is not starting and I can't be there. But what I did is I called so-and-so that lives nearby and helped her as much as I can, just so I can be of help. But sometimes she called me with problems that I couldn't do anything, that I could just be there to listen and empathize with her. So emotional stability. And a lot of times, my beloved, we give the inverse of emotional stability. We can be a cause of instability in our homes. Daddy is unpredictable. Daddy's in a good mood. Daddy is frowning. Daddy's coming after a long day, and he is completely like a ticking bomb, right? This is not what God is asking you to provide. God is asking you to provide, even though you're burdened, even though you could have 100 things on your mind and 100 things that you want to do. Bury it inside. Keep it inside, right? And show them that you are there for them while you're carrying this burden. And believe me, they'll know that Daddy was carrying all of this. Daddy was thinking about all these problems, and we never felt it. And we never even understood the things that Daddy had in mind. Another way to provide is provide leadership. In different areas of our lives, do I lead them spiritually? Do I follow the parenting techniques, or do I, the famous proverb of do what I say, not what I do, right? It's okay, Daddy can do this. Daddy can do all this stuff, but do what I say. Do I tell them to pray, Habibi, but they never see me pray? They never see me connecting with the Word of God daily. I need to be a servant leader in my home. I need to be the first one to apologize. I was just talking to some of you over maybe dinner or informally yesterday, and I said the power of apologizing is huge. Apologize. Apologize when you mess up. We do mess up. We do slip up and say inappropriate words. Apologize. I remember we had this rule in our home, and when I was talking about that yesterday, And the rule was not to go in the house with our shoes. And I forgot, I was just carrying something and went in with my shoes. The kids all of a sudden wanted to put me on notice. Daddy, you broke the rule and you get a consequence. I said, okay, I get a consequence. No coffee for today. They know I love my coffees. So they said, no coffee. I said, okay, can I get another consequence? They're like, nope. You're not going to get coffee for the day. So be under the system. Don't be above the system. Show them that you are vulnerable. Show them that you are with them. You're sharing in their struggles. That you understand that there are times that we're going to try to uphold the system as best as we can. And when we mess up, we hold our hand, we take accountability, and we submit to the system. That is not above the system. That is going to get a consequence if he messes up, right? As fathers, we're entrusted with our families to lead them to the kingdom. I always had this imagery in my mind before marriage. Marriage is two people going hand in hand, leading each other to heaven. And along the way, God blesses them with their children. They take them along the way with them on their path to heaven. Another way we can provide is protection. Not only in the basic understanding of protection from danger, but we need to provide protection from the dangers of this world, the danger of ideologies and the dangers of everything that they see. I always empathize with our kids as they step outside of the home. I liken it to they're stepping into a minefield. They're stepping out into a danger zone. And that's why I tell them, pray, equip yourself, carry a weapon as you go out into this world. And I drop you off at school for 6 hours. The things that you hear, the things that you see, the things that you will be asked to do, it needs protection. And we have to provide them this protection. Self-esteem, make them understand that they're valued, that they're not going to be the most popular kids, but make them understand and acquire the strength of mind. Because when we raise a fragile generation, they break. And believe me, I think, one of the biggest problems we have in this day and age is that this generation is fragile. The generation breaks under pressure, caves into demands of society, conforms to this society. And we don't have the strength of Daniel that says, no. The three saintly youth that everybody, I just imagine a whole kingdom bowing down to a golden image, and three people are standing upright and saying, no. And I love when they answer and say, listen, Nebuchadnezzar, not even king, listen. If God wills that we perish in the fire, let it be. But if God wills that he delivers us from the fire, glory be to him. What a defiance. And we need to raise this generation to understand that they have to defy the ideologies of this world. We need to provide a place where they feel the values and the way of life of God is unwavering. How many of us, we have kids that are approaching puberty, how many of us took the time to actually go on a trip or on an outing or on a dinner or something with our sons and daughters and talk to them about puberty, and talk to them about, here's the things that are about to happen to you physiologically as God prepares you to go from a child to an adult. This is how God transitions you in this coming period. Or we just let it happen. They're going to discover when they discover. Protect them, equip them, be with them, strengthen them mentally for what they're going to face. For the longest time, and to this day, we never celebrated Halloween. And at some point, I was having a discussion with my wife, and Halloween was coming in the middle of the week. And I says, Miriam, let's just give them a day off. I don't care. Goes unexcused absence. I don't care. She says, no, I want them to go, and I want them to see kids dressed up, and I want them to see kids getting candy, and I want them to actually have the strength to say, no, that's not, I don't celebrate that. And I tell them, when somebody offers you something Halloween-related, say, I don't celebrate that, thank you. So this idea of making them mentally strong for everything. Let's not shelter them. Let's not make them, back off from everything and all the challenges that they're going to face. Make them strong and ready to face it, and face it with, graciousness, and face it with strength. It's going to come. It's going to come. Cultivate in them this idea of we're different. We're called to be different. There's. I remember my wife made a video about the difference between the sons of God and the sons of the world, or the children of the world, and posted that video. And then all the comments, one of them was very, sharp and attacking. The lady was saying, "Stop poisoning our kids' minds, that they're different, let them be acceptable, and then them be tolerant," and so on and so forth. And she showed me that text, and I said, it's completely false. Don't worry about it. Because in John 1, it says, to those who accepted him, to them he gave them power to become children of God. He makes a distinction. And actually, in the epistle of St. John, he says, the children of God and the children of the world. So there is a distinction. Don't be afraid to show them and tell them that they're different, that they're called to be different. Everybody has this invitation to become a child of God, but not everybody accepts. And they need to understand that. In the epistle of St. James, it says, pure and undefiled religion before God, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, to keep oneself unspotted from the world. That to me is so. We can visit orphans, we can, and widows, and be charitable to them. But to keep yourself unspotted from the world, to me, that is a tall order. That means you have absolutely no stains on your baptism robe from this world. And in another epistle, I can't remember which one, St. Paul says, not a hint of sexual immorality. Not a hint. Translation said this. Not a hint of sexual immorality. Why don't we prepare ourselves and prepare our kids to protect them from the world? We are asked to be protectors. We are asked to be Papa Bear, protectives over our kids. Not just physically, but in the sense of forming them with a strong idea of who they are, what their values are, so that anything that is presented to them that's contrary to that, they reject it and say, no, thank you, I don't want that. In Psalm 126, it's a beautiful psalm, and I'm not sure a lot of us understand this. It says, as the arrows of the warrior, as the arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior, so are the children of one's youth. What does that mean? Why is he comparing arrows to children? It's important for us to understand. It's to Abuna Matthias' world. You're preparing them to leave you, to go into the worlds. Because back in the days, arrows were being fashioned and sharpened and actually made sure by the warriors. He would make sure that they're plumb, and he would soften them and straighten them. And since they spent so much time in making this arrow so perfect, they would not even let it go at any target, right? But the moment they take an arrow and shoot it, it goes and it hits the target. That's exactly the same ideology of us. We're preparing them. We're making sure that they're plumb, that they're straight, that they're sharp, that they're not gonna just break with the first obstacle that they hit, that they're gonna go through and reach their targets in the face of all the obstacles that they that they face. This is the whole idea of we're letting go of our children, but we're letting go of them once we are sure and once we have the grace of God to let them go. I'll finish very quickly. The last one is provide forgiveness. It's so beautiful that as a father, I model God the Father who accepts and forgives those who fall and lose their way. Our kids will mess up. Our wives will not be perfect at all times. I need to tell my children that I remain loving and accepting of them regardless. The arms of God, when you think of the cross, why the church has put the image of the cross, crucifix or the cruciform at all times before us, because God's arms are extended at all times. He never ceases to put down his arms and get off that cross. He is there with his arms extended. And we need to model that. We need to model that, Habibi, come. It's okay if you fall. Like the father and the prodigal son. Always be a safe haven for your children. Embrace them whenever they come. I love the image of the prodigal son falling on the neck the father falling on the neck of the prodigal son, embracing him, not even letting him finish, not even letting him, okay, Habibi, confess, yalla, tell me, so I can forgive you. Spare them the embarrassment. Spare them, the idea of making them feel shame and guilt. Take them in, give them a safe haven and a safety net. Tell them that I'll always be with you, even when you go far and explore and get tested by the world. I'll be there. I'll be there for you as a father. I'll be there for you to love you, to always bathe you and put on the ring and the apparel of repentance and forgiveness. May God grant us to provide for our loved ones, to provide in a Christ-like manner, not just as men, not just financially, but in a holistic way of providing for our families. Glory be to God forever and ever. Amen.